Kalbunur Siddiq is from the Urumqi region of East Turkestan. She was a Mandarin teacher in an elementary school. In 2017, she was sent by the authorities to educate people she was told were illiterate. Kalbunur was forced to teach Mandarin at a men's camp between March and September 2017, as well as at a women's camp between September and October of the same year. Kalbunur, who now lives in exile in the Netherlands, estimates that the two camps held around 3,000 and 10,000 detainees, respectively. In our interview with Kalbunur, she provided rare insights into the management of China's camp system. But despite her freedom, Kalbunur is still haunted by the abuses she regularly witnessed in the camps. My name is Malter Ilikut. I am a project.
Казахи, братья, это что за неблагодарность? Ребят, вы правда решили, что Россия куда-то испарится? Эмигрирует на Марс? Или вы думаете, вы эмигрируете? На Украину гляньте внимательно. Подумайте серьезно. Я в это верю, потому что все. Игры в дружбу кончились. Сейчас это вопрос выживания. Идет война. Война двух огромных больших идей, двух больших стран, и второй страной является не Украина, а Америка и НАТО. А вот всем остальным, особенно братским странам, республикам, нужно определяться и занимать сторону. А нам внимательно посмотреть, кто с нами, а кто нет. И не определившихся, как мне кажется, подающих такие вот однозначно недружественные, это раз, или неоднозначные сигналы. Ну что ж делать? Относить к нашим врагам.
I need to start with an apology for bringing this person to this beautiful audience, and I need to apologize for my counterparts who are watching it live, who had to rewatch it again. But it was my point to start with and to, show you what I will be talking about in the next few minutes. It was Tigran Keasayan, famous in his previous life movie director, who became a Russia propaganda weapon, as well as his wife. Many of you know her. She is Margarita Simonyan. She is head of Russia Today, one of the leading Russian propaganda channels. And you can imagine that it's not only this couple who from time to time sending some threats to my country. My name is Vyacheslav Abramov and I am from Kazakhstan, the country in the middle of Eurasia between two very powerful neighbors, China and Russia. Kazakhstan and Russia share the longest border in the world and the joint past. That was not chosen by my country. For hundreds of years, Kazakhstan was part of Russian Empire and then the Soviet Union. For many years, my country was a place for experiments. Soviets tested nuclear weapons at the east of Kazakhstan near the city of Semipalatinsk, and it affected around 1.5 million people in 40 years. Soviets experimented with agrarian sector that resulted in draining of Aral Sea. Back in the days, fourth in the world, and it affected all Central Asian states, not only Kazakhstan. During the Soviet time, a lot of ethnic Russians, Belarusians, Ukrainians, Germans were deported or replaced in Kazakhstan. And it resulted in changing its ethnic map. In 1991, when Kazakhstan became an independent country, ethnic Kazakhs were only 40% of the population of the country. Now, 30 years later, it is 70%. But we still have a lot of Slavic people, ethnic Russians and others living around the country, especially at the north and east. And these Slavic people, and not only them, are targets for Russian propaganda in Kazakhstan. For years, television was and still is the main source of information and news for people in my country. And Russian TV is the most popular source. Just 2 months before Russia invaded Ukraine, Kazakhstan experienced the most powerful protests in its history, and the most tragic ones, unfortunately. At least 238 people were killed on the streets and in the police facilities. President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, asked Russia and other partners from the Collective Security Treaty Organization to help and send troops to my country. And they did. Fortunately, they came just for 1 week. Even before January events that we call Bloody January now, and before the war in Ukraine, Kazakhstan was target for Russian propaganda. But the January events, and especially the war, flamed propagandists as never before. What they are saying, it's the same messages that you can hear toward Ukraine, that Kazakhstan never exists, that ethnic Russians are under threat of some nationalists in Kazakhstan, that the Russian language is under pressure in my country, that Kazakhstan should be thankful for Russia for everything it has, and be thankful for help during the January events, Bloody January. What do they want from Kazakhstan? They believe that Kazakhstan should support Russia in every possible step, including the war in Ukraine. And Kazakhstan doesn't. Russian propaganda is extremely destructive. Russians have money, tools. They are really good at propaganda. They manipulate, they are playing with facts, they are sending messages of so-called support to ethnic Russians in Kazakhstan. And many of them still trust Russian TV, because TV can't lie, as many post-Soviet people think. What can independent media from Kazakhstan do in a situation when the Russian propaganda machine is at a full speed toward your country, against your country? We are trying to find solutions. We are responding to some most destructive messages. We are addressing them with facts. We are fact-checking news and publishing stories that confront Russian so-called news and messages. From time to time, we, independent journalists, combine our efforts and work together. Small group of independent journalists who can check statements by Russian and say what it is, lie and manipulation. We're investigating Russian propaganda messages and telling our audience the truth. Here are some examples. My colleagues from factcheck.kz, a local fact-checking website, wrote several stories about messages that Russians spread for years, not only earlier this year, that the United States created labs in Ukraine, Georgia, and Kazakhstan to produce biological weapon that can be used against Slavic people in Russia. Of course, it was not true. These labs worked for years transparently and didn't have any secret programs. Last August, Russian propagandists shared the story that one ethnic Russian was beaten by a group of ethnic Kazakhs. And it was a lie too. Conflict happened a few years ago, and it was not based on ethnicity. My colleagues from Masa.media, a local independent media in Kazakhstan, made a fast fact check and shared the truth about this story. My colleagues from Azatik, the Kazakh service of Radio Free Europe, do on a regular basis reviews of Russian propaganda, not only on Kazakhstan, but also on Ukraine, and trying to explain to their audience why the Kremlin is spreading lies. And my media, Vlast.kz, is trying not only to address concrete messages of Russian propaganda, but also to analyze how propaganda works and what steps Kazakhstan can do to fight it. Our joint work is informal, but we are ready to and must go to the next level. We are following examples of some good media around the world, including Rappler and others, who are working together to fact-check not only Russian, but also Chinese and others' messages. We need to organize ourselves more intentionally, to be more efficient and act faster, because we all saw what happened in Ukraine. After years of flaming hate, Russians made an action. And we cannot wait and give them a space to have more support in Kazakhstan. And going back to Tigran Kiasayan, the person that I showed you at the beginning, Kazakh Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared him persona non grata. So he can't enter my country anymore. What is more important, after his speech, many people in Kazakhstan changed their mind about Russian media and the war in Ukraine. For the first time, they saw that their own country can be in danger too. So speaking ironically, sometimes Russian propagandists can do a good job. You understand it's only a joke. But the work against Russian propaganda must be serious all the time. And we need a lot of support from the world to fight against it and for our country. Thank you.
Good afternoon, freedom fighters. My name is Rodrigo Diamanti. I'm the president of an organization called A World Without Censorship. In Spanish, is Un Mundo Sin Mordaza. And with this organization, we have been promoting the participation of artists in the fight for freedom in Venezuela, in Cuba, Nicaragua, and many other countries. Because we really believe that they have a stronger voice that should be heard around the world. Today, we're going to present the video of Ram the One. He's one of a very important musician of Venezuela, but he's important not only because he's a really good artist, but because of his story. Ram was protesting one day in Venezuela, like any other citizen, and at some point he got captured by a group of supporters of the Maduro's regime. And after that, they start to punch him, kick him, and even stab him many times. Ram almost died that day, but he managed to survive. And after 2 months, as he told me, he realized not only what it means to fight for freedom in a dictatorship, but also he realized that he used his most powerful tool, his music, to fight for freedom in Venezuela. So since that day, he has been creating amazing music to energize the movement for freedom in Venezuela and to explain what is happening. This is very important because we have to fight with our head, but also with our heart and with our passion. An artist can create that soundtrack of the movement that we need. A soundtrack that will encourage us to continue to the fight, a soundtrack that will give us hope when we don't have, a soundtrack that will give us the light that we need at the end of the tunnel. So because of that, Ram Taiwan is just one of the artists that are using their talent to fight for freedom in Venezuela. And that's the world we want to live, and that's the mission of our organization. Imagine right now having the best artists around the world creating songs for the soldiers in Ukraine, creating songs for the activists around the world in Hong Kong, here in Taiwan, in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Nicaragua, Burma, all around the world. That's the world that we need, because if we combine activists with artists, our movements are going to be even greater, even stronger. So that's the work that we believe. And since we have been working with more than 2,000 artists in Venezuela around the world. And we will continue to do so. And I also want to thank the World Movement for Democracy, because I have seen how every assembly are more artists invited to this assembly. So not only activists, but also artists working together to bring democracy back around the world, or improve it in those places that are never seen democracy by their own eyes. So thank you very much. Please, Ram couldn't come here because of the corruption of the regime. It's very difficult to have passports, but his music is here, and you are here, and he just wanted to thank you, all of you, for what you're doing for democracy around the world, because as he told me, you're also an inspiration for him and for his music. Thank you very much.
Acro produce. Esto es M. Davis Studios. A las 3:34 un día. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Fue a las 3:34 de esa madrugada normal en la que yo tomé mi folio al escuchar el cañón percutar. Para mí no fue gran sorpresa asomarme a la ventana, ver a una madre llorando tirada a su hijo en el piso que sangre derrama. Sucede en cada semana, sucede en cada día. Me asome o no me asome al frente de cada avenida. Se sigue dando el caso de la mañana al ocaso, cambiando evolution por involution y dando pasos al fracaso en una sociedad a la que yo tilde basura. Estafa, uniforme, paco y violación suenan escura, sin cura. Se hunde dentro de una enfermedad manifestada en odio, brotando toda la maldad. Si un apéndice no es sacado un niño en ese hospital, al que llega por emergencia pues padece un dolor brutal. De negro poco a poco se le torna su futuro. Antes de pasar al quirófano debe pasar el seguro. No hay dinero, no lo esperan, el dinero no llegó. Ahora el forense le espera, pero me pregunto yo, y quien tenga la respuesta que me la dé sin demora. ¿Quién fue el coño de madre que le quitó el hijo a esa señora? Fue el destino que trazado supuestamente se encuentra. Lo cambio y lo moldeo sin que nadie se dé cuenta, porque es mío y a lo escrito nunca le he visto ciencia. Creo en la señora Super que se apellida Vivencia, y quizás cambie tu vida de repente. Con todo esto que te cuento, solo escúchame atentamente. Seas mi amigo o mi enemigo, párame bolas que es contigo. Deja de estar pensando por la tapa del ombligo. Yo no digo no, que solo tú eres la la falla, porque hace falta dejar en banda para llenar esta playa. El peo no es el presidente, tampoco el delincuente. Somos todos que fallamos, lo digo individualmente. Me incluyo en el paquete, pues he sido penitente de acciones cometidas en pasado y presente. Quisiera borrar mi mente, comenzar el cassette en blanco, pero al ver que ya no puedo, pues prosigo y no me tranco. En este mundo con millones de habitantes, en el cual cada quien vive en su mundo. Mil mundos de un mundo en un terreno mundano que solo nace y solo muere porque es un mundo con millones de habitantes, en el cual cada quien vive en su mundo. Mil mundos de un mundo en un terreno mundano que solo nace y solo muere porque tú te llamas mundo. Que solo nace y solo muere porque tú te llamas mundo. Que solo nace y solo muere porque tú te llamas mundo, friend. Davis Studios, Round the One en la casa, Acro en las máquinas.
Hello everyone, how are you? Here Rafael Montenegro, aka Round the One. I send this message with many mixed feelings because right now I should be sharing with you all that beautiful show that I put together with my work team with the intention of bringing our music to you the best way possible. However, although everything was done that was within reach of the all people who were working on it, we could not make it happen. I hope you enjoy the conference very much, that each and every one of the people who attend can return to their homes happy, and knowing that all of us who are united for this great cause that is human rights, are contributing a grain of sand to make this a better world. Many thanks to the organization World Movement for Democracy, to the organization Sin Mordaza, to Riota, Rodrigo, Oderay, Irian Ellis, to all of you who did everything possible to make this happen. Wait or next year to be able to accompany you. I send you a big hug, and continue living your lives in favor of making a better planet for all. Sigan viviendo sin mordaza. Ram the One en la casa. Bless.
Yeah. Sí. Esto es rap inclusivo, rap para todo el mundo. Tú dices que es diferente. Everyone. Explícame tú que es diferente. What is that, man? Este ritmo será el himno de mi gente, de los juzgados tachados de diferentes, por cómo hablan, cómo visten, lo que sienten. Levanten su voz y grítenselo al presente. No soy diferente. Se acabó el tiempo de decirlo entre los dientes. Haz lo que amas, grita lo que piensas siempre. No sientas miedo de lo que diga la gente y diles no soy diferente, no soy diferente. Se acabó el tiempo de decirlo entre los dientes. Haz lo que amas, grita lo que piensas siempre. No sientas miedo de lo que diga la gente y diles no soy diferente. Yo seré la voz del ateo y del creyente, desde que solo habla con las voces de su mente, que rechaza al que rechaza otro, frecuentemente por tener piel de color o porque de color se siente diferentes. Si es de lenguajes o de lingo se te entiende, no de creencias, sentimientos o que aumentes las ganancias de tu cartera porque soy llena por fuera, pero dime tu alma así anteriormente a los de mi estilo y de mi gente, esos que pintan, bailan, patinan bajo algún puente, no evadían la requisa del mismo señor agente que hoy en día los escolta pa' que rayen legalmente. ¿Me comprendes? Yo solo quiero que aproveches el presente, tiempos de cambio, pandemia, en fin, siglo XX, donde si hay cambios que sean de mente, contribuye y muestra al mundo tu mejor tú diariamente, que por suerte lo único irreversible en la vida es la muerte. Así que borra el prejuicio que te pervierte, ese que no te deja quererte. Tú vive y deja vivir llevando bien alta esa frente. De piel oscura, pero tiene un alma igual. Baja estatura, pero tiene sangre igual. Prefiere hombres, vive para respirar. Quizás mujeres, entonces porque hay que cambiar. Raya su cuerpo, pero tiene un alma igual. Viene del barrio, pero tiene sangre igual. Ama la música, vive para respirar. Respira arte, entonces porque hay que cambiar. Este mensaje de fuerza es dedicado para ti especialmente, que has sido tildado de diferente por alguna cuerda de dementes que no comprenden que si hay conexión entre cuerpo ama, grita lo que piensas siempre. No sientas miedo de lo que diga la gente y diles, no soy diferente, no soy diferente. Se acabó el tiempo de decirlo entre los dientes. Haz lo que amas, grita lo que piensas siempre. No sientas miedo de lo que diga la gente y diles, no soy diferente, yo seré la voz. Yo seré la voz. No soy diferente. 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 Acro produce. Rise 1200. Yo seré la voz. No soy diferente.
Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure. After such an energetic entrance, we have to keep up the mood, right? First of all, it's a great honor and a privilege to be here with you today. This is an amazing room full with amazing, bright, energetic people who want to change the world and make it a better place. And it's absolutely wonderful to have a chance to see you all in face-to-face. And I think this is the energy that we get, which is going to help us to go through next 2 years before our next assembly. Well, I'm delighted to be here today presenting a very interesting session. It's going to take a lot of dedication. And I think, well, let me ask you one question. How many of you feel that we need to do something new, something differently? Wonderful. How many of you feel that there is an opportunity so we can become better in visualization, in really getting our messages across? Well, I guess this is also this activist forum that we are trying to spend the maximum time introducing you three amazing people, three amazing groups. One from Taiwan, Garden of Hopes. They are very hopeful. They are great. They have made a lot of amazing programs throughout their existence. They're same age as I am. And they over 20,000 cases they get per year to help the victims of the violence. Then we're going to talk and go more into, and they're going to present one of the forms of art. So in my session, we're trying to share with you the artistic experiences from different parts of the world that have worked. And maybe after this session, you will be more motivated to try different things that hopefully will work in your daily lives to make your lives better, for making others' lives better. So after, we're going to have a theoretical discussion, and we'll see the amazing play, a very short one, but I think very impressive. We will have two other amazing speakers from Turkey and from Afghanistan. We're going to share with you the importance of art. We all know, and we have all heard a million times, that one picture can be more powerful than 1,000 words. And we live in the era where actually words are becoming very tiring sometimes, and people really want to see things. People want to be part of the things. So hopefully this session will empower all of us, and maybe 2 years later when we meet to our next assembly, we will have more to share to each other. And I think this is, honestly, each of you have an amazing experience that we can learn from each other. So let's start by giving the floor that I'm taking time off, and I'm here only to keep the time because everybody here knows perfectly what they're supposed to do. And I hope it's going to be very interesting for you. I hope it's going to be very motivational. Because for me, every time I come and meet all of you, I become charged with energy. I become charged with ideas. And I think that's what we need. Because, well, as we know, it's insanity doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And here we are trying different approaches for seeing the different results we all hope to see. So let me introduce you, Yu from, thank you, they really trained me for this, from Garden of Hope from Taiwan. Please join me on the stage. and let's hear from you about your amazing group and your amazing experiences.
大家午安。
Hello, everybody. I am Yu Ying from the Garden of Hope Foundation. I am delighted how we have taken art and used it as a means of advocacy. Can you see my PowerPoint? Is it possible to bring up my PowerPoint? If the PowerPoint is not ready, I can also just talk you through my presentation. Actually, we've long served female victims of violence, and we've heard unthinkable stories along the way. So after years of service, we began wondering, other than direct service, what else can the Garden of Hope Foundation do as an organization? Is there a way to facilitate dialogue? And we saw that V-Day was a very good example from abroad, where it was mainly aimed at stopping violence against children. And they actually used the play, the Vagina Monologues, as a way of igniting awareness to stop violence against women. And we saw that V-Day and its performance went on for 10 years. We know that when it comes to the vagina monologues, there are many survivors of sexual violence who go on stage and share their own stories. However, in Taiwan, it's very, very difficult for women to do this. So we asked our social workers to speak on their behalf. At first, our social workers were very reluctant, but gradually they found the courage within them. Also, we have a play, Barefoot Alice, which was another way of allowing victims themselves to talk about their experience, to know that it is not their fault. And whenever you look at our plays, you are deeply touched. Many people actually join us and form an alliance. I talked about Barefoot Alice. In 2008, it was a project that we started where we worked with women who were victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, or gender violence. And we started a theater group aimed at healing them. And the group adopted the name Barefoot Alice in 2009. Victims have their stories performed in playback theater as a means of self-therapy. And in 2012, Barefoot Alice started performing their own version of the Vagina Monologues. I mentioned that the Vagina Monologues has been performed for 10 years in Taiwan. So it took us 4 years to come up with our own version of the Vagina Monologues. We call the Taiwan Vagina Monologue Shidi. The meaning behind the word Shidi is that these are personal stories of women from Taiwan who have been neglected, oppressed, and injured. And today we are going to show you a segment of the Deng Ruwen incident, which is part of the Taiwan Vagina Monologues. In 1993, October 27, Deng Ruwen, a woman, took a fruit knife and a hammer. She killed her husband. She stabbed him when he was drunk. First stab. You sexually abused my mother and then me. Another stab. I was only 15. 15. Another stab. I was just a child. How could I have a child? Again and again. You threatened to first live with me and then marry me. Deng Ruwen murdered her husband, facilitated the passage of the Domestic Violence Prevention Act. Nobody would ever stop and listen to me. But why does a tragedy need to happen for us to pay attention? No one believed me. Today, countless women are still stuck in their marriage hopelessly. I am in a dark room. I see no hope. But there is no wound on the body. There is no exit, no light. Because their husbands seem nice and polite on the outside. People outside are used to seeing a bright life because we can't ask for help. My pain and darkness are locked in this room. Even when they ask for help, the police will probably say, "Come here when you are actually hit, okay? We need an injury form." There is no exit. There is no light. His body and bed sheet are covered with crimson red. I will then give you a perfect injury form, which says, "This man's wound is too deep. He died on the spot." Tell you what, I really don't care. I don't care anymore. The world never cared about me anyway. So we just saw a very short film clip and it was already very powerful. And today we are so happy that actually 3 of the women from Barefoot Alice are here to give us a live performance. Let's welcome Barefoot Alice and their performance. October 27, 1993, Deng Ruwen took a fruit knife and hammer. She killed her husband. You sexually abused my mother and then me. Another stab. I was only 15. 15. Another stab. I was just a child. How can I be pregnant with another child? Again and again. You threatened to first live with me and then you wanted to marry me. Deng Ruwen murdered her husband. It facilitated the passage of the Domestic Violence Prevention Act. Nobody would ever stop and listen to me. But why does the tragedy need to happen for us to pay attention? No one was willing to believe me. Today, there are still countless women stuck in their marriage. They can't see any hope. I'm in a very small, dark room because these women don't have wounds on their body. I have no exit, no light, because their husbands seem nice and polite on the outside. People on the outside always like to look on the bright side of life because these women can't ask for help. My pain and darkness are locked inside this room. I know even if I ask for help, the police will probably only say, "Come when you're hit, okay? Because we need an injury form." There is no way out. There is no light. His body and bed sheets are covered with crimson red. Here you have it, a perfect injury form. And it says, the man's wound is too deep. He died on the spot. Tell you what, I don't care anymore. The world never cared about me anyway. Let's thank Yang Yang and Su Zhen. That was amazing. So let me ask Su Zhen a question. We know that you are a victim of domestic abuse and you went to the Garden of Hope Foundation and now you're actually an advocate. Would you like to talk a little bit about your personal journey? I used to be someone with absolutely no confidence. If I had to hold a microphone, I would be shaking. However, through theater and drama, I was able to find a way out of my misery. I'm now able to help people in the same predicament. And I really hope that I can heal them and that they can find their own confidence to change. During this process, I actually encountered so many frustrations and I was so insecure. But because I wanted to help fellow women, I wanted them to be like me, be courageous and say no to violence. You can do it. Thank you, Su Zhen. That is amazing. I think because of Barefoot Alice, we can see that this lady, Su Zhen, has become much more powerful. Thank you. Let's thank Barefoot Alice again.
Thank you for your wonderful team. Thank you, Yu-Ying. It's wonderful to be here and hosted by you. I have a question, which I think that most of the audience would have. First, what has been the reactions from the public when you have been presenting the sessions? And I'll here include my second part of the question as well. Have you seen the changes? What has been the outcomes that you believe has been direct outcomes of your activities?
I think Garden of Hope has been using drama and theater to really raise awareness. And I think it's actually quite magical because through the soliloquies, through the drama, we actually can touch people's heart. Usually the performances are about 90 to 120 minutes, but after the show, you will see people who've never been here, who've never watched the show, to share their experiences with us because they think that this is a safe space, and sometimes they would post their reflections on our walls, and we're really encouraged, and we think that this is really meaningful. And there are also people who would also post their reflections on Facebook, and sometimes their friends and relatives, after reading it, will actually be attracted to our performances. So I think actually our influence goes through many places, reaches a lot of circles and corners. So I think theater performance is actually quite innovative because usually we've been hearing about different kinds of promotional materials. But if you actually see a live human being standing in front of you, you actually do feel that this is not irrelevant. This is something that's really related to me. It's happening around me. So there are more people willing to reflect on their lives, and I think you do feel the warmth. We have audience members who've been to the performance more than 3 times and asked him why. He said that because he wanted to come back and watch it again so that he can digest the content of the drama, the play, and he actually invited his friends to watch the 3rd time. So I think this has really affected many people's lives. So I think Garden of Hope will continue to do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us, sharing this experience with us. I have one short question before we run out of our time. It just came to me when I was watching, and Imagine you would be starting this type of theatrical performances now. I know that you have been doing this for over 10 years. What would you recommend to people in the audience? Imagine you are starting the similar actions now. What would be, one key point that we all have to take in mind if we want to implement and use your experience?
Okay, I think there are different forms of performances, but it does take some time. We usually take about an hour, and we will give a 2-week performance. It really needs a lot of resources. Next year, we will celebrate our 35th anniversary, and we will actually hold another live performance. Of course, we would like to invite everybody, but then we would actually turn this into a play, a playwright, a script, and I hope that we can make this public so that people can adapt the play, and it can be adapted into to be performed in a small place, in a cafe, or on a large stage. I think the script is important. It has warmth, and it can actually be adapted into different circumstances. It can be a large performance. You can find professional directors or stage directors or professional lighting. But you can also have amateur players, amateur participants. So I think there are different forms, and I think what's important is actually that you can try. A quarter before 4, we will actually have another performance in one of the nearby rooms.
Joining us today and sharing your experience. As it was mentioned, after our this gathering, there will be an opportunities for those who are not exploring different types of art, like an excursion. You can join the Democracy Forum. There are going to be several sessions, and please, those who don't have a plans, make them as your plans. Well, as it was mentioned, we saw the theater being maybe one of the oldest and ancient ways of performing and bringing messages to the people. Even it was in a different language, we could all see the main messages that were coming from the performance. Well, now I guess it's a time for the messaging, right? We all have so much to say. I'm one of those people who always have a hard time to make things short. When I'm given an assignment of many words, it's much easier than making things short, understandable, fast for people, because I see all of you have some type of gadget in your hands. Some of you are on Twitter, some of you are messaging your family, some of them are watching TikTok, let's be honest. But all of that content has been created, right? And most of the times, even when I'm myself scrolling, and I'm like, can I have something more interesting coming up, right? So cannot we be the creators of that content and getting that messages across? So I have an amazing partner here joining me from Turkey. Well, you're not from Georgia, so we're kind of very close anyway. And so, yes, please join me. So Dijumar Institute from Turkey. Medini Sungur is actually maybe the guy we all wanted to hear. It's because we all want to be better in our social media, right? We all want to be better in getting our messages across, as you all raised your hands, well, 95%. So therefore, this amazing organization and this amazing person has managed to get the team of very diverse group of people. And I was just checking around their achievements, and unfortunately in today's world, things go down to views and likes, and they have managed to reach over 1 million views on different topics, on anti-corruption, on violence, on all various areas that we all are working on. So, floor is yours. Please share your wisdom with us. So after we go out of here, we know how to be much better in what we do in social media life.
Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you. I mean, I'm under pressure right now. Thank you. Well, to say the least, I'm the least amazing person in my team. I'm coming pretty much from a classical think tank background. I'm kind of the guy who's really happier with longer texts and stuff. And also, I like being the speaker in the after lunch sessions. In general, it's a challenge. The jokes are taken well. So, yeah. I will talk about our recently launched Quest Media project. Quest is Turkey's first explanatory journalism platform. We got the inspiration from the creative content studios, I will say, who are dedicated to social issues, who are established by people of my age who are involved with civil society movement, as well as organizations like Vox in the world. So a little bit of background. In 2015, I was one of the co-founders of pretty much like a DC type think tank in Ankara, Turkey, and our audience was very narrow, just elites and decision makers, and we wanted to impact them through like 90 pages long PDFs and lengthy reports, and to unfortunately no avail. And we later figured out that even the Congress people or even their staffers don't have time to read that many pages anymore. So in 2017 and 18, Turkey was going through a brutal state of emergency period. And despite our brilliantly prepared reports on how rule of law is important, how freedom of expression is important, and I was constantly, and a lot of our organization's members, our advisory board members were being taken down, harassed. There were trials going on with them because of the columns they wrote like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So it was like a dark picture around me, like especially the people I feel connected to, I feel respected, I feel respect to. Around that time, I started to think about like how can we better communicate issues, because I'm a libertarian and I'm a human rights activist, and I tend to like to talk about issues like government budgets, gender pay gaps, and these kind of remote stuff. The stuff when you talk about them, there are a lot of numbers, there are a lot of pages. When you start talking about them, people immediately start to feel to yawn. So as we call them within our group, from inspiration by another friend, broccoli. So we were more concerned about the broccoli rather than cheese. After that, we launched a documentary in cooperation with a creative content studio in 2018 with our think tank, which talked about structural reforms. I mean, even the name is so remote and distant, it basically explains nothing. It got more than 1.5 million views in less than 6 months, and we basically talked about everything from rule of law reform to criminal justice reform and everything. And I was at the time thinking about the future of this industry and how can we make our impact better. In 2020. We went on to create another institution, Digimar Institute. The institute is basically, to my lack of vocabulary, because I was only about like centers and institutes back then, but I knew at the time that the PDF, I started to understand the PDF is a form of content. It's just another form of content. And the things that we talk about, the things that we consider remote, the fiscal budgets, government budgets, police violence and stuff like that, they are distant to my generation and the generation below, because these topics are generally taken by people older than us and generally framed in their conversations and with their vocabulary. That's what I found out. So if we can make these informations and these debates contextual to rising generations, and if we can make them familiar to what they see every day, so maybe we can get a chance at like bringing them into these conversations, which they maybe regard as more distant, more boring, etc. So we launched our Quest Media as the first explanatory journalism platform. So our job was basically turning broccoli into cheese. So we wanted to make these kind of complex and distant information and debates widely available and digestible for younger generation. And to be able to do that, we went on to video. And I knew that from the start that we needed a different kind of talent pool to draw on, rather than the people as myself. So, but I couldn't just simply go to agency people or advertisers, with all due respect, because what we were dealing with has an essence that is a peculiar kind, that is very sensitive. You should be very respectful, not to disturb the essence of it, while you are turning them into something digestible. So we created Quest Media to operate on YouTube, on social media primarily, on visual. And we started to do, pretty graphics, pretty maps to talk about these issues at first. And we came to a point, but eventually we figured out that it's not only about making them pretty, making them nice. It's more importantly about making them contextual. By contextual, I mean you need to make them closer to what people see in their everyday user experience with different platforms. So the debates or the information we need to tackle has to be contextual to the platform. So it needs to look familiar as it is presented with a lot of different contents around it. So I will give you an example. There was a study by United Nations on the unpaid labor of women who are staying at home, like worldwide. It's an amazing number, like $40 trillion or something. It's an amazing number. Even the number itself is so distant that none of us can basically imagine it. Like it's just a number and a lot of zeros. So to be able to make it contextual, we basically went off to a completely different field. We went to a soap opera. Some of you might be aware of the appeal of Turkish soap operas in several different places. We actually went on to get a scene from one of the most popular ones about a family who's living in a great grand villa just beside Bosphorus, and who has a maid, and the relations, who has a housemate who is also taking care of the children and teaching French, etc., etc. So this housemate was like a part of the family, and she was properly compensated at the time. We basically use hooks because we have ethical considerations. In the social media world, we figured out that we need to basically come across people as timely, and we need to first jolt them, but we need to stop them. And if we are able to do it, we need to make them laugh before even going into the subject. So we first learned to hold our tongue, because in a lot of the events and in a lot of the environments that I've been in, I was used to, start immediately talking about, police cracking down on, human rights activists, and, bad stuff and bad stuff and bad stuff and bad stuff. So we started to learn about holding our tongue, and we started to learn about, meeting them in equal terms. Otherwise, we were just going to be swiped away, I will say. So, after that, we use this. We developed this hook technique as an alternative to clickbait, because we need to jolt people. We need to do it quickly, but we have ethical considerations. By using clickbait, you further distance people, the reader, from these important issues, and basically you provide no value to them. So we instead develop this hook technique in whatever we are doing. If we are doing a TikTok video, if we are doing a YouTube video, we develop this hook technique. We are basically using something very popular, something that is completely from an off-topic, off-universe, and something very popular from the popular culture. And we slowly delve into the issue, the broccoli. Actually, we present the cheese first, and we slowly move into the broccoli part. So we use this video from the soap opera about the housemaid, and we take the question of, we intrigue the audience's curiosity. We ask the question of how this housemaid, when she left home, was able to get a nice two-story villa just around Bosphorus as well. Because she was fairly compensated, and she was doing nothing more, almost nothing more than an ordinary stay-home housewoman. She was delivering no more services than her. And this kind of hook is meeting the audience in their terms and slowly delving, slowly building the conversation has triple benefits, actually. First, we are able to draw them into this kind of more, their eyeballs into this kind of more, attention-requiring kind of topics. Secondly, it leads to great conversation. So starting from the comments about how we open the videos, how we enter the topic, into like a lot of the different aspects, like, oh, this is the way I can show this to my father. This is the way I can explain it. I send it to WhatsApp groups. I'm now able to explain the issue to my older relatives, etc., etc. It leads to great conversation and commentary. And third, and most importantly, it creates a long-term communication with the audience. So we brought together visual artists, videographers, who have also civil society background in our team. And actually, one of our team members is responsible for, because this is me. I'm the guy who's coming up with mostly with the titles that you would see on an academic journal rather than on YouTube. So there is one person responsible for stopping me for titling our videos and other stuff like this. We make it contextual. We try to make it nice, and we try to respect the audience rather than just I know you're.
And I'm becoming the person who is like interfering with his this long scientific speech.
Please,
but no, thank you so much. I think, well, first of all, I was down there, and you said about left, and well, thank you, Georgie, for choosing the worst picture of me, that was possible. Well, I guess there were opportunities, but that was really bad. The second, well, thank you very much. I think I know the soap opera you're actually talking about. So I guess you're even making impact outside your country, and I don't know if you know about it, but that's true, because actually there are a lot of people across the world who actually watch Turkish soap operas.
Yeah.
And I was actually in the back, we were even guessing the names of the soap opera you were talking about. But I think for all of us here, the first thing I guess that came to my mind is, well, social media is so diverse, right? You said about importance of linking the right messages to the right platforms. Honestly, if we compare, it's very similar to what we do, right? For example, when you choose your target group, you choose the place where you want to have a meeting with them, or do you want to have a coffee? Do you want to have a conference? You choose the methodology, then you choose the speakers, who would be the best speaker to get the message across. And then you basically choose. You cannot have 45 minutes only on certain thing, or just have 5 hours right ahead. So literally, you're telling us we need to learn how to translate things that we believe in, the values that we want to get across, messages that we want to get across, to the modern era platforms, right? Like the Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whichever form we're working on. I myself, I have been trying to build the platforms. Have been successful in certain areas, have been not that successful in certain areas. And I guess it's also about, social media is full with content, right? I guess we all agree. How did you manage to actually find the right forums and right places and right time? Like how you actually make that happen? Can you share like that know-how with us?
Well, actually, we spend a lot of time thinking on it, but there was a major difference between what I was doing previously and what I'm doing right now. A mindset shift, I will say. Because of the nature of the issues we are involved so deeply, I had that attitude of what I'm doing is very, very important. And you need to stop and listen to what I have to say. Because I'm talking about things that will concern you, that is concerning you, even though you don't know it, and you need to listen to me. That was the attitude beforehand. So right now, although I still believe that essentially what
because we believe this is important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, guys? Everybody agrees? I mean...
I still believe like what we do is very important, but on a day-to-day basis, sometimes, there's a prioritization mechanism. Sometimes getting the grocery is more important than, the freedom of expression of journalists in the scope of next 15 minutes. So we are basically not competing with our, alternative facts and alternative facts providers only, but we are competing with cat videos, and nobody can beat cat videos in the internet.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, I have no idea what people are talking about, and then I spent like few hours on making this podcast and having the guests and making everything like very cool, and then there is the cat video who has like 5 million views in like half an hour after they're published, and then there's my podcast which has like 10 views after half an hour. So yes, we get that. We get the cat videos, right?
I will just give you an example. Let's say we are on TikTok and we want to talk about this like completely off TikTok policy issue. There are trends in TikTok, like people dance with certain music,
yes,
or do certain stuff.
I think everybody knows that one.
I will give you a surprising info. Even if you don't dance, even if you don't put your face on TikTok, there's still chance that you can win TikTok. But it needs to be in line with the trend. So we are basically what TikTok does is essentially what we are doing, our general approach. Basically, taking a general trend and people contextualize it to relations, to their issues, etc., etc. So recently, our lawyer, who is also very, very involved with the civil society work in Turkey, just put out, and he's very concerned about the hyperinflation right now, and we are not nearly talking about hyperinflation enough in Turkey right now. And he basically just put the music and trend and said it was a sad music and it was a snarky music, and he put the comment on it just like he was watching sadly his computer, and he put the music and he wrote that I'm listening to the explanation of inflation by the minister. And you hook the people like that because it resembles what they see in a lot of different TikToks, and you can hook them into description where you can go into deeper issues. Maybe, so there's a method I called drawing from the sales funnel. There's a perception funnel. So we first jolt people and we try to make them laugh. Then we go into the issue, and then we go into the conversation with them after.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Let's give an applause for learning how we can become more interesting on social media. I think it's extremely important what we've heard. And in the first part, we saw the play, we saw the messages that we learned that in different places, how we need to adopt, how we can make things more viral, going viral on the internet. But then sometimes we also need to have a visual, right? Like what we were just saying before, that there's sometimes one visual, one picture can mean 1,000 words. And therefore, I guess now is the time to introduce you the art lords that some of you might have been walking around and have seen certain art pieces. And if you have not done that, please make sure you do before you leave. And let's start with our third presenter. And let's go into the pictures, the art, the paintings, how this amazing group of artists from Afghanistan have been managing to be successful in getting their messages across. So let's roll.
All right. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Very pleased to be here. You just saw a glimpse of the highlight of the work which Ortlords does in Afghanistan and other parts of the world. And I'm very, very happy to represent my team and speak to you on behalf of them here today. I just want to take a moment and remind ourselves that in Afghanistan right now, the women of Afghanistan cannot go to school. The women of Afghanistan cannot dream. They are under the control of the Taliban, which only understands it's a black and white for them. So just imagine that you're the better half of the society, the better half of Afghanistan. They're banned. They're imprisoned in their homes, and they cannot dream anymore. So let's just, that sets a while I go through this presentation. So we are the Ortlords. We call ourselves the positive lords of Afghanistan. We have a lot of negative lords. You know, if you're in my part of the world, you have the drug lords, you have the war lords, you have the corrupt lords. It's a lot of negative lords. So we wanted to be something different. Something different was Ortlords, constructive lords, the lords who come up with some beautiful ideas, paintings, street theater, music, a bit of empathy, love, and kindness. So that's who we are. That's the name. And you see the painting of Gandhi. We had a series called I See You, which was against corruption. So we had done 200 murals of this series where you will see eyes, and the eyes say, I see you. I know you're stealing my money. I know you're doing corruption. It was against the Afghan government, the members of parliament, and the international community. So I knew you're corrupt. Someday we will take you to justice. So that was the series that we did when we first began Artlots. We started in 2014, and it is a volunteer organization, grassroots movement of artists and activists, and it came up with a problem, a challenge that we were facing every single day. So if you were coming out of your home in Kabul or other cities of Afghanistan, you would have these big, ugly blast walls. These are 8 meters tall, concrete and steel wall. These are security walls. And it is a symbol of oppression. It's a symbol of divide, that the rich and powerful are safe behind these walls, but the poor and the ordinary citizens of Afghanistan, they're on the streets. They could be targeted, they could die in explosions and all of that. So this challenge for me and for our team was that how can we remove these walls? How we can reclaim back the space, which is my space. The space that I ride my bicycle, the space that I played football on, the space that I was going to my school and university. So that's how we decided, okay, these are open canvases. Let's use them as canvases, and let's have messages about social transformation, about justice, about fighting corruption, about democracy, about rights. So that's how it all began. A bucket of paint and some brushes, and we were all on the streets. And it was sort of, for us in Afghanistan, a way to find solutions for our own problems. Afghans, young Afghans coming together and finding indigenous solutions, not something that projects were coming from outside and solutions from the international community that most of the time will not work. So it was something that we wanted to help our people, the young generation, that they can start their own initiatives. We did it with a bucket of paint and brushes. You can start from your villages, from your communities, from your districts, and you can do it as well. And it was also that we could reintroduce some of those lost values, democratic values that we had, which was forgotten because of the 40 years of war. So this was a way that we wanted to reintroduce those values in the community back. And the good thing was that it invited everybody to paint. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're crossing by a place that we're painting, you just get a brush and start painting with us. And that is the beauty of it, because a kid working on the streets of Kabul, a mullah, a soldier, anybody is welcome. And then you're creating a platform where those conversations happen. And those conversations are about very important social issues. You're engaging the community. The young generation is involved. They talk about their grievances. Somehow, when they're talking about these issues, you're promoting critical thinking, you're encouraging the community to ask questions, and also somehow you're changing their attitudes and behaviors about whatever is happening in their country. We were discussing a lot of themes. We worked on over 70 themes, which was from public health to education to democracy, whatever issue which was important for the community, and they would come up to us with those issues. We would be creating artworks and painting those murals. As I mentioned, the ICU, the anti-corruption murals, were quite famous. And these murals, I remember one day we were painting these murals in 2014, and I went to the passport department, which was very corrupt at that time. So we had these badges with the eyes on them. And then everybody was so scared. They thought the people of I are here. So everybody in the city knew that these murals are about corruption, and there was a lot of talk happening about it. And then the government officials were sort of scared that what these people might do. We were just a group of young people on the streets, but it had created such an impact that everybody was taking notice of it and then talking about it. Or issues of countering extremism and countering violent extremism, because a lot of people die in Afghanistan, and most of these stories were gone. And these people who die, they are the sister of somebody, mother of somebody. They have stories, they have dreams. We wanted to bring up these stories. And we wanted to humanize these numbers, Like every day I would hear 50 people killed, 100 people killed. And this is daily news for us in Afghanistan. So we wanted to make sure that these numbers, people understand. That people like Qudsiya, which was 21 years old, and she was killed on the way to the university. So these stories come up. and somehow we engage the community and the people who are doing this, that these are not number. This is not normal, that we die every day, that we are fearful of our lives every day. Or we did a lot of street theater shows. This is an image from Herat, Shindan district. This is on the border areas of Iran and Afghanistan. And we were doing this theater shows about illegal immigration and the smuggling which was happening all the time. And probably this was the first time a street theater show was happening in a place very far away from the capital. And people were mesmerized because this was a very new tool, an effective way of engaging with the community about very important social issues. Art therapy has been a very important topic for us, and because of a lot of trauma and a lot of depression and anxiety that we all go through because of war and violence and corruption and poverty. So we did a lot of art therapy sessions, and this was probably the only way that people could deal with their anxiety and trauma and depression. So we would go to schools, universities, different places, and we would provide art therapy sessions, and in a way engage the whole sect of society to release their traumas and anxieties. Also exhibitions and visualizing Afghanistan, because whenever you see the media, the only thing about Afghanistan is always the explosions, the drugs. It's always the negative news. The narrative the media promotes is the reality, is part of the reality in Afghanistan, but not the whole reality. So what we also did was, there was groups like Art Lots happening. There was a lot of, we were just one example of the positive things happening in the country. So we wanted to also show a different side of Afghanistan to the world, that they understand Afghanistan is not only about all these negative laws, but positive stuff happening as well. So all of this were beautiful, happened until August 15, 2021. And this is the time that we got new rulers. So the people who conquered Kabul, the Taliban, they forced most of us, people like me, forced me out of my country, the place that I knew all my life, the place that I lived all my life. So, and what they did, the first thing that happened, they destroyed all the murals. We had done over 2,200 murals all over Afghanistan. And they started painting them white. And this happened even before they started their government. And in my opinion, they did this because these murals were sort of the symbol of whatever we had gained in the last 20 years. The symbol of freedom, the symbol of creativity, the symbol of that young generation are able to do activities, be creative, and come up with solutions. So those are all gone. They have messages which says that this is a foreigners' propaganda, or calling us infidels and all of that. So, and especially the murals which had the female faces, they're all they have done it like this. The eyes are blackened out, and or they're completely destroyed. Some other examples of the murals which are gone. It's now just black and white, as the Taliban are, and as the way they are dressing up. And this was one of the murals which I really liked. These are the kids that we, all of them are in Afghanistan right now. And we were telling them that you could be a lawyer, you could be a member of parliament, you could be the president, you could vote, and you could be elected. But unfortunately, they no longer can be that. They are just imprisoned in their homes, and now we have these logos of Taliban over those murals. What Outlaws does right now, although it was a difficult time for us in the last 1 year, but we have continued our work both inside Afghanistan and outside Afghanistan, especially becoming a voice for Afghanistan, because all those people who are out there, they do not have a voice. The free media is gone, the civil society is gone. So we have a responsibility as organizations who are fortunate enough to be outside Afghanistan, to be a voice for all those people inside. So we have continued our mural painting. We have continued our art therapy sessions with Afghan refugees, not only in Afghanistan, but outside, like in North America, in Europe, in Asia, and that has continued. And Art Lots has expanded its work in different regions of the world. Light shows, music programs that has been happening since we have gotten out of Afghanistan. And that's all about Art Lots, so thank you.
Omei Charifi, my friends. Wow, that was very beautiful and colorful. And then the story got a bit darker. Unfortunately, things that are happening in Afghanistan, you're right, we hear less and less. And thank you for doing what you were doing. I mean, before we started the session, we had a very small chat. And you mentioned the challenges, right? What has been the main challenges? Let's talk about that after, even during the process, but also the after leaving Afghanistan, because I know a lot of art lords also had to leave the country. So can we talk a bit about that?
Sure. We were fortunate that half of our team were able to get out, and I'm very grateful to National Endowment for Democracy that they helped us to get some of our stuff out. But more than half of our team are still inside Afghanistan. The challenges which we were in Afghanistan were, of course, when you're getting out of your house in the morning and you're not sure that you're going back alive is one thing. But what has been more difficult for me personally as an activist or artivist has been the mental health issues. Because we have gone through so much trauma. And then as a person who is speaking about these issues, as a person who is, like your face is known to the public in Afghanistan, and then they expect you to be their voice. They expect you to help them. And then all this requests for help is coming to you, and you're filtering all of those. I think one of the biggest challenges for me has been the mental health, the toll that it takes on you as a person, that you go through all of this, and you're filtering all this negative energy that's coming to you. And then back, you have to be positive, you have to be kind, you have to show a positive side of things are happening. So I think one of the biggest challenges is mental health. And unfortunately, there are little resources, and not a lot of people are talking about it. But I think we must. This is the time that we need that kind of support, especially if you are not okay as a person, as an activist, as an artist, or as a champion of democracy. I think we cannot help others.
I fully agree with you, and I think it's really, we're always the ones who should be always ready, who should always be ready to fight, always be in a fighting mood. We can change things, and I fully agree with you that I think sometimes we also need each other, or we need support and more help in order to be on that mood and to be ready for for moving forward and continuing the fight we're all fighting. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here with us today. And now I have been honored to be able to announce that there is several options for you now. Options are always good. I highly recommend to attend Democracy Forum. There are several different workshops out there. We didn't cover the poetry, so it's going to be one of the sessions. It's going to be about the poetry, and there's going to be a lot of interesting groups. Maybe Ryota, do you want to say a few words? What's happening after this session now, or everybody knows what we're doing? Yeah, you're all good. Okay, I was just asked to promote highly about the Democracy Forum. And again, thank you so much. I think I did my job of really trying to be on time, which was the hardest, I think, in this work. And now let's give the floor to Ryota.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yesterday I mentioned that assembly is meant to provoke your thinking and expand imagination. So today, this afternoon, I hope it helped you to expand your imagination a little bit. Now, I know you're tired of just sitting down. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a time for you to actually explore this beautiful city, Taipei. So I want you to take advantage of that. But I want you to be back here 9 o'clock tomorrow. So don't go partying too much, but you should party a little bit. It's a beautiful, fun city. Now, I want to actually make a quick announcement. The day after tomorrow, the 28th, we'll be providing airport transportation back to the airport. If you're traveling after that or before that, unfortunately, we're not providing transportation. Now, we'll be sending information about the airport transportation tomorrow morning. I hope you're getting the communication from us, the morning tea, that highlights what's happened the day before, that's what's going to happen today. So please pay attention to that. Mostly just we'll be providing transportation from here nearly every 1 hour from 6 in the morning till 7 o'clock or so. But please pay attention to the information that's coming to you tomorrow morning. Thank you so much and enjoy the city.